Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Cutting Edge Figure Skating Podcast. My name is Kim Dunaway, and in this episode, I will be doing the first of my season's best list, and this will be ice dance. And per usual, I could not limit my choices to just 10, so I have a top 12 again this year of my favorite routines from the 2024-25 season. I will also say that there are no rhythm dances in this top 12, which is kind of been the way it's been this entire Olympic cycle. This is my third year doing a season's best list. And the very first year, I had one rhythm dance on the list. Last year, I think I had more than one, but it was still mostly free dances. And this year, not a single one made the list. It wasn't because there weren't some rhythm dances that I did like. Like I liked Gilles and Poirier, I liked Orihar and Pyrenees. I liked Hercula versus Lewis's. And in each of those scenarios, I liked their free dances better. So none of them made it. They're all free dances. All right, let's get into my favorites. So number 12 was Phoebe Becker and James Hernandez. This was their free dance to James Bond. And this for me was not a routine that was really on my radar this season. This is not a team that I cover a lot because they're not typically in Grand Prix events. And by the time we get to Europeans, there's so many other teams to cover. And so when I saw them at Worlds, they were in, granted, that was their best performance of this program the entire season. Even On Ice Perspectives did a video of them doing this routine at a show, and you could see some little bobbles and some issues in that one, but I thought that their performance at Worlds was just really fabulous. And then when I went and back and watched tons and tons of routines to compile this list, it held up. And it's funny because James Bond is so overdone, right? But this whole program for me, it just kind of feels like they're on a mission. Like I feel like they tell a story very well. The music selections do really service to it. We hear No Time to Die a lot, right? We hear Writing on the Wall a lot, but they paired it with pieces of music at the beginning and pieces of music at the end that just made it flow really well. Like just right off the bat, they really set that tone when it starts off with the James Bond music and it starts to lighten up with No Time to Die. And this other piece from the No Time to Die soundtrack called Final Ascent just really works, and then it revs back up into that James Bond music, and their costumes are fabulous. And this made the list. Number 11 was Manny and Roethlisberger, who made the list last year. Also, this was their free dance to music from Titanic. They are certainly dressed the part, right? He definitely looks like Jack. She looks like Rose. The whole routine I really enjoy, but once the Celine Dion, My Heart Will Go On kicks in, I feel like the routine really goes up to like another notch. I love like the hydroblading movement that where she's in the splits. Their lifts are so good in this program, and they end the program with 3 lifts in a row. So they do this rotational lift, like right on the crescendo of the music. That's really effective. I love the choreographic lift that they do right after, where she's on his thigh and she's just hitting this really great position in the air. And then the last one they do is just so unique. It's just such a really fun, fantastic program. And I really love it. And I was bummed that I didn't get to see it at Worlds because they didn't make the free skate, but I enjoyed watching it at some of the smaller events that they were at during the season. And they made my list for the second season in a row. And number 10 is the first of a few American teams on here. American teams, very deep, a lot of really good programs. So Emilia Zingas and Vadim Kolesnik, and they are another team that were on my list last season. They were one of the few rhythm dances that made my list last season. This year, it's their free dance to Epilogue and Lost It to Trying. It's choreographed by Benoit, and it's so good. I love the 1 foot turn sequence that they do with the music. I love the rotational lift that's like right on the music change. I think their character step is really strong and it helps to really sell the program. I think that it is so well done with the strengths that they have, which we're still learning. And I think they're still learning as they're still a very new team. But this is definitely the best free dance that they've had since they've been together. And I can't wait to see how this sort of propels them in their career. But it was a standout to me at the very beginning of the season. And it is in the top 10 here as well. Also, great costumes. I love that she sort of has like minimal makeup and even just the hair like slicked back into the ponytail. Like I think all of these routines that make my list. It's the choreography, it's the costumes, it's the music, it's just the whole overall package that really makes for a really compelling program. My ninth favorite program is Yoshida and Marita of Japan, and this is their free dance to Prokofiev's Romeo and Juliet. It's been a favorite of mine all season since I saw it very, very early on. I feel like they bring like the youthful energy that it needs. Like a lot of people use Romeo and Juliet. Not everybody can pull it off particularly well, but I feel like they bring something like a little fresh to it, like that one foot turn sequence that they do where they start sort of facing and mirroring each other before they kind of sync up and do it in a more traditional manner. I love the first variation of their twizzles to the music. And then right at the end, they're bringing the drama. So you really get to see a great dichotomy between the beginning of their program to the end of their program. And it just really works. Unfortunately, it wasn't at their best in their last performance of the season at World Team Trophy, but there were lots of great competitions throughout the year where they performed it really, really well. Number 8, I have Caroline Green and Michael Parsons. And this was their free dance to Spiegel I'm Spiegel and Dance Me to the End of Love. And it was choreographed by John Luke Baker. And this program was just it was so nice to see them sort of return to form after last season, which was just like, it was such a miss. It was clearly trying to recapture the magic that they had in that like Martha Graham inspired piece that they did in the Olympic season a few years ago. And this year, it just them and John Luke Baker just make just really, really beautiful skating together. I think he really got them. I think he brought the best out of them. They brought a lot of emotion to every single time that they performed it. It's another one where they let the dance really speak for itself. They didn't over style it with costuming, especially Michael's is very, very subtle in his costume, and it just really works. They're a team that has always struggled with their lifts. It's something that I've really talked about on the podcast with them a lot over the last few seasons. And the lifts in this program were the best that they've ever done in their career. It's just that combo curve lift that they do back to back on the silence is so good. It's so effective. I love the lightness of like their first set of twizzles. I'd love to see less effort with the other two, but it when they came out like at Worlds, it was just a completely different vibe from what anybody else was doing. Like we see a lot of programs to slower style music, but they don't have this kind of like contemporary feel like this one did. Their rotational lift that they did was also really good. I thought their diagonal step was just so smooth. And I just felt like it was just such a step up from what we've seen them do. And it just was one of the standout programs really from this whole season. It just makes you stop and just watch. And it's one of those programs that it's like the 4 minutes goes by and just like a heartbeat. It's so well done. All right, moving on to number 7 is Orihara and Pyranin, and this is a team that has been on this my season's best list every single season that I've done it. They just always have a fantastic free dance, and this year was no different. Now, does it reach the heights of Chicago, which was number 1 on my season's best list last year? And it was going to be a tough follow-up no matter what they did. I think with the chorus line, it's not a musical that people are as familiar with as they are with Chicago or Phantom of the Opera, right? Les Miserables, like those stories that people are very familiar with. A lot of people probably don't know the story of Chorus Line as much. There is a movie, I've never seen the movie, but I have seen the Broadway show and I really enjoyed it, but it's one of those that people either love it or they don't. And so I think when they debuted this program at the beginning of the season, I feel like people love certain elements of the program, but it probably wasn't until later in the season where people really got behind it as much. They did make some tweaks in their costumes, and that certainly helped. What is missing for me in this program that keeps it from being in the top 3 or the top 5 like they're capable of doing is there's not a ton of standout moments in this particular program. Like their character set for me is a huge standout moment. Like their commitment is just unmatched by literally any other Ice Dance team, I think, right now. And it really shows in that character step. It's so, so good. But the rest of the performance, it's good, but I just don't feel like it has a lot more memorable moments that you'll be like, oh, I really love that rotational lift there. I really loved this there. Like I like their twizzles that they do at the beginning because they're big and powerful and it's right on the music. But that's the one thing I think that this program is probably lacking, as well as, like I said before, people sort of trying to understand the story may not completely get it, but they're fabulous for sure. And of course, it was going to be on my list. And like I said, they were a team that I also really liked their rhythm dance as well, but this one was definitely the standout of the two. And number 6, I have Madison Chalk and Evan Bates, and this is their free dance to Round Midnight and Take 5. And this is the first time that they have made my season's best list, surprisingly, because the other programs that they've had this Olympic cycle have been good, but none of them have been for me like in the top 10 programs of the season. But this year, for me, this program was. I felt like they just really captured the vibe of jazz, of like the 20s, like a speakeasy. And what I really like about this, that we saw a little bit of flashes of last season as well, and we saw a little bit of flashes of in the rhythm dance, is I felt like Evan was back. I think he's had some injury issues a bit over the past probably several seasons. They did a lot of programs just back to back where Maddie was kind of the star and they were featuring Maddie and Evan was just kind of there as a prop. And here I really felt like Evan got to sort of remind us of like why he's such a good skater. And it really helped to elevate this program when they were both sort of involved and just kind of really killing it at certain times. Like they've always been really good at lifts and they really have great innovative lifts in this program also. I feel like their 1 foot turn sequence is maybe the weakest part of the entire program, and they have had better ones in other programs in the past, but that's the only real criticism that I have of this performance. I love their diagonal step I have all season. I felt like it's one of the better ones really in all of Ice Dance this season, that doesn't feel like, oh, let's check the box off for the step sequence. It really flows well with the rest of the program, and it's really appropriate for this particular program. And that last stationary lift when she's on his boot and the exit out of it is just so, so good. It's a great way to end the program. And of course, she looks like $1,000,000. I mean, that costume is just fabulous. All right, getting into the top 5, my 5 favorite programs this season. So in 5th place is Nisette and Markeloff, and this is their free dance to Love Will Never Die, Hold Your Breath, and Gloria Regali. And this is definitely giving a lot of like Game of Thrones vibes from her hair, costumes, even the music that they use. I think one of the songs was supposed to be used for a trailer in Game of Thrones, but they chose not to use it. So it didn't come from Game of Thrones. Her story isn't specifically Game of Thrones, but she is like a queen. And so they have this whole story about her being a queen. And it's, to me, the story is secondary. Like, some programs, like, you need a story. Like, you need to know, like, because you leave at the end going, What was that supposed to be? I have questions, right? I don't have questions about this one. Like I feel like I get it. Like you don't have to tell me the story. Like I get it. I love these musical selections. Downloaded all three of them early in the season, as I think they're all fabulous. And they just really impressed me when I saw them at Skate America. Like the stationary lift is incredible. Like she just hit some really good positions throughout the whole program. I just feel like musically it's really strong. The music that they use for the twizzles, they also do much more difficult twizzles than most people do. The transition into the dance spin is really good. Most teams, the setup is just almost like distracting, like you know it's coming. And for them, it's just seamless. It just melds right in with the choreography. It's done really, really well. I think that the last piece of music, Gloria Regali, for that character step is so powerful. It starts with this big acrobatic move, and the whole program is just very dramatic from beginning to end. I love her hair. I just love the whole thing. It's just, for me, it's like if I think about routines that I'm going to go back from this season and watch, like this for me is one of them. Number 4 is Gillis and Poirier. And I did not think that this free skate of theirs was going to be as high as it was. Definitely knew it was going to make my season's best list. But when you start watching a lot of these programs like back to back, and I'm sort of moving them around, like it just holds up so well because it's so brilliantly choreographed. Again, the musical selections just work really well together. They start out with that air on a G string and that rotational lift combo that they start off with the beautiful with at the beginning just works so incredibly well. The control is there. They look like they're a top team when they start this program. The choreographic assisted jumps to the cartwheels and the lyrics is just genius. I feel like the second set of twizzles, kind of all the way through the character step, that's their tango section. And it's just such a strong choice in what might have been a very vanilla program without that section. It just gives it a whole different flavor. I love the spinning movement that they do, which is very reminiscent of Chalk and Bates, which they tend to put in their programs. I think that last lift is very strong and very effective. They have great speed. It's just really good. My only complaints with theirs has nothing to do with the program or the choreography or the music selections at all. It's the costumes. Specifically hers, I just feel like the color washes her out. She Both iterations of her costume were the same color. I didn't like either one of them. I didn't like the style of either one of them. His costume, I was always on the fence with. I don't have an issue with the open back, right? He talked about that in the press conference at Worlds. One of the reporters asked him about, what was the sort of rationale behind doing the open back, and he said basically that he was trying to go for more of a look that sort of blended the lines between like masculine and feminine, and zero issue with that. I just didn't love the color. I just didn't love the color of it. Like it doesn't have to be black. Everything doesn't have to be black. Every tango doesn't have to be red, right, or maroon. But I just didn't love the color, and I didn't love the color of hers at all. So if I'm going to nitpick about anything, it's just the costumes. But the program itself, I think, is just really, really fabulous, and I think probably it's tough to say because I really liked their Wuthering Heights piece last year, and it wasn't as high on my list last season as this one is this season. But I feel like because there were so many strong programs last year that were ahead of it, I might like Wuthering Heights better as a vehicle for them. But I think choreographically, this one is probably stronger. But they've really killed it the last 2 years with their free dances for sure. All right, getting into the top 3. So we have another frequent flyer on my season's best list, and that is Julia Turkula and Matthias Versluis of Finland. And their free dance to Bewitched, and probably going to butcher this, Obsi Astronom. It basically is like a synthesized version of Libertango. I thought this routine, a lot of the season was going to end up number one on my season's best list. There's just so many parts of it that I am such a huge fan of. But when I saw it in person at Worlds, it's still really fabulous. But there are a couple others that just stood out more and ended up getting over them at the end of the day. But still, another really strong showing for them. Third year being on my season's best list, they're always very, very high because they always have just really fabulous choreography for their free dances. And we've really seen three very different styles from them the last three seasons. Here, they're doing a tango. Last year, it was more of a contemporary piece, and then it was more of a kind of pretty classical, lyrical kind of piece the year before that. And we're just seeing a lot of range from them. Her dress is fabulous. Yes, it's red, but the asymmetry of it just kind of makes it different enough. I love some of their lifts, like the curve lift when she's suspended in the air. I just love. And then also the rotational to stationary lift, which is always they have the best in the business. Love that. My favorite part of the whole thing is the dance lift where she starts up and then she ends up like balancing on his boot, this great like straight line that they do. It's so good. And if you think that Julia is like one note, like this shows you that she has some intensity. She stays in character the entire time. And I really, really love this program. I only wish that they could have managed to have gotten on the podium at Europeans, but it's so fabulous. And it's only overtaken by two just really unique programs. And number two is L'Opera in Brazil of France. And this is their free dance to selections from BFR Indie, or Boyfriend, who is a artist that typically composes music for runway shows. It's so unique and different from what anybody else is doing. I mean, it's kind of got this techno, edgy feel to it. Another one that the costume is just really, really fabulous, especially for her. It fits the music so well. They're so committed. Like the beginning is just so fluid. It's almost like it's in slow motion. The straight line lift where she's upside down is always just been such a highlight because she's like first in the season, like she didn't move, right? And then later in the season, they started adding like an arm movement where she was sticking her arm out sort of to accents of the music. I've watched both versions and I think I prefer the one where her arm is just straight because she's just up there and she's not moving. But either way is totally effective. Like it doesn't take away or they're both fine. But the slower section in the middle that they do really works as a contrast from sort of the beginning of the end. And for me, like a mark of a good program is those little touches that only work in that program. And like at the end where she kicks her leg over his head at the end is a great example of that. Like that's not going to work in most programs. Like you can't put that in Romeo and Juliet probably. It's not going to work necessarily in a tango program maybe, but it works so good in this program to that piece of music just like right at the end. It's really really good. And they're a team that for me has been good this entire Olympic cycle, but this to me just made them stand out so much more than the Bells of Moscow did for them last year. All right, number one, I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? It's Smart and Deke, and this is their Dune free dance. I went back and watched their Nebelhorn performance because I wanted to see, okay, what really did change other than the costume, which I gotta say, the costume is a big part of the glow up because those costumes that they started the season were terrible. She had some kind of weird thing on her head. The costume kind of looked like something that would she would wear in like a Fifth Element program, the ugly orange color, and he had this scarf. It just didn't work. But even so, with that, like almost every element that they did in that performance at Nebelhorn, either it wasn't done well, like the twizzles, or of course the lift that they fell out of, or it was rushed. And what helped besides the costumes was overall the pacing of the program for me really changed between that fateful performance at Nebelhorn and when we saw them again at Skate America and what they were able to do the rest of the season. It's just extremely well choreographed. And not everything is super difficult. Obviously, like some of the stuff that they do at the beginning is very difficult. That last straight line lift is very difficult, right? But like the lift where she's on his back, if it's difficult, they don't make it look difficult, but it goes so well with the music. It's just very effective. They have lots of little nuances throughout. It never feels like at any point like they're just skating around or they're taking a break. Like everything just fits together. I still don't love The Feeling Begins at the end. And I thought that was going to keep this from being number one. But when I saw it in person at Worlds, it was just like a completely different experience. And it was just no question for me that this was the best free dance this season, the best ice dance program this season. And they were rewarded with a small medal at Worlds, which is amazing. I mean, this program took them in places I don't think they expected to go this season. And it just shows you what a really effective program, and again, that's packaged well with the costumes and all of it together, can really make a just tremendous difference. All right, so that is my top 12 favorite programs in ice dance this season. I always end my season's best episodes with my rankings of my top 10 teams of the season as well. I think the top two are easy, right? Chalk and Bates at 1, Gillis and Poirier at 2, pretty much where we've been at the last 3 seasons in this entire cycle. Number 3, I put Fear and Gibson because just throughout this season, they've just kind of proven that they were the third best team this season. They had a tremendous fall, and they capped it off by getting on the podium at Worlds with what I felt like it wasn't even their best free dance of this Olympic cycle. I mean, I would put this 3. I would put Rocky and Lady Gaga above this one for sure. I would probably put Rocky 1. I think so. I think even though I liked Lady Gaga better, and I had Lady Gaga ranked higher on my season's best list that season than what I had Rocky last season. But I just feel like Rocky was just so different and transformative for them. But even so, either program wasn't a bad season. This is the first season that they were not on my season's best list in terms of their programs, but they had their best results. And so to me, they're number 3. Number 4, Grenade and Fabry. There's really no competition. Once you get past the top 4, you could make a very good case for a few different teams at number 5. But ultimately, I went with Lajoie and Loca because even though they did not end the season at Worlds like they would have liked, in the top 5, again, I think over the course of the season, they definitely were the 5th best team. 6th, I put Carrera and Ponomarenko, who had just a continuous rise really all season. It's going to be interesting what they look like next season. If the Shibutanis coming back is going to affect their results at all. Are they able to continue to pick really good programs like they have these last 2 seasons as well? But they are a team who looks poised to be a podium contender when we get some retirements after next season for sure. 7, I have Lopareva and Brazeau, who this free dance really propelled them into the top 10 this season. It's unfortunate that they had a slip on the stationary lift in the free dance at Worlds, and we weren't able to see kind of what their ceiling was. But hey, they got on the podium at Europeans, which was huge for them. And I don't think we have seen their ceiling yet either. In 8th, I have Turbulent and Versluis. Again, these next 3 teams, you could make a good argument for any of them being in any of these positions, just because Julia and Matthias are just not very consistent. They skated well at times, and of course they had the big mistake at Worlds and even at Europeans where they had a really great finish and finished just off the podium in 4th. Still had a lot of little things that they could have cleaned up technically that they still need to work on. But I have them at 8. I have Smart and Deke at 9th, which may seem low, but I could not make an argument to put them in either of the top 7 positions. I think they're definitely behind Lopareva and Brazeau. And for me, at their best, Turbulent and Versluis are a better team than Smart and Deke. And then at 10, I have Reed and Amber Levicius, who feel like they have kind of like an incomplete on this season because we saw them later into the Grand Prix. That puppet master routine I really liked, but it was taking a bit for it to gel. And then we didn't even get to see it at Worlds. So we didn't get to see them at their best really at any point this season. I didn't think that their rhythm dance was their best either. Felt very similar to their Welcome to the Jungle that they did last year, but not as good. But I still have them in the top 10 because I think that they are at worst the 10th best dance team out there going. All right, so that's my thoughts and wrapping up Ice Dance for this 2024-25 season. I think it was a year of chaos, right? Just a lot of craziness going into an Olympic season, and we sort of capped off the year of craziness with, the announcement of a brand new team and another team coming back. And so it infused them. Like, where would I slot? Just for fun, like if I was going to slot the Shibutanis and Guillaume and Laurence into this current top 10, like where would I put them? Oh boy, this is a tough one because you've got Laurence Fournier-Baudry, who with her previous partner was top 5, right? Guillaume with his previous partner was 1. So together you feel like they should be in that conversation for medals ahead of Lajoie and Lagat. And the way that Guinard and Fabry had skated this season, I'd probably put them ahead of Guinard and Fabry. So, fearing Gibson, boy, yeah. I mean, I just on potential alone, I'd probably put them in the top 3. I probably would. The Shibutanis are tougher for sure, but I would probably slot them in behind Carrera and Ponomarenko, maybe behind, oh boy, it's tough. I'd probably slot them in front of Smart and Deke for potential. For this particular season, I would slot them behind Smart and Deke and put them like ahead of Reed and Amber-Levicius. But going into next season, I think, if they are anywhere near what they were, which I think it's tough for them to be where they were at, but if they're in the neighborhood, they're definitely a top 10 team for sure. All right. I would love to know your thoughts on what were some of your favorite programs this season. And if I didn't pick one of your favorites, let me know what some of your favorites were. You can leave me a line on the comments on social media, Instagram, Threads, X, Blue Sky, YouTube. You can also send me an email at thecuttingedgepod@gmail.com. Next up will be men, and I've got that season's best list coming out in a day or two. Hope you guys enjoyed this and you're enjoying the off season, and I'll be back real soon.